Arnold Schwarzenegger is the kind of name that needs no introduction. From bodybuilding legend to action film icon to governor of California, his career has spanned more industries than most people dream of. When you think of Arnold, a few images instantly come to mind: the leather-jacketed T-800 staring down enemies with a shotgun, the jungle-bound commando fighting an invisible alien, or the Mars-bound agent questioning his own memories. Over the years, Schwarzenegger has racked up a lineup of films that define action cinema, and with those roles came massive paydays. Most fans and even industry insiders assume his highest earnings came from one of his mega hits. Terminator 2, Judgment Day is the obvious guess. It was revolutionary in its use of CGI, packed theaters around the globe, and made Arnold an even bigger star than he already was. Others would probably put their money on Total Recall or True Lies, both of which had massive budgets, major studio backing, and enormous promotional pushes. But the truth? The film that made Arnold Schwarzenegger the most money was none of those. In fact, it wasn't even an action movie. It didn't feature massive shootouts, robot assassins, or covert operatives. It didn't even show Arnold with his signature ripped physique front and center. The movie that brought in the most cash for Schwarzenegger was a comedy. Yes, a comedy. This is where the story takes a twist. At a point in his career when most actors would double down on what worked, Arnold did the opposite. He took a risk. After a string of successful action films, he teamed up with director Ivan Reitman and comedian Danny DeVito to make a film that no one expected, Twins. And not only did this film become a surprise hit, but it also became a financial masterstroke for Arnold. You see, Arnold didn't take a traditional upfront paycheck for Twins. Instead, he made a calculated bet with the studio. He waived his standard salary and, along with Reitman and DeVito, agreed to take a significant percentage of the film's profits in exchange. At the time, the studio was skeptical of the movie's potential and probably thought they got a bargain. What they didn't count on was Twins becoming a massive box office success. Made on a modest budget of around $15 million, it went on to gross more than $200 million worldwide. And because of the deal Arnold struck, he didn't just get a slice of the earnings, he got a king's share. Over the years, the money he earned from Twins dwarfed his paychecks from other blockbusters. Arnold himself has publicly stated that Twins made him more money than any of his Terminator films. It's one of those rare Hollywood deals that actually worked out in favor of the talent rather than the studio, and Arnold knew what he was doing. He saw the potential in the project, he trusted the chemistry with DeVito, and he took a leap that most action stars wouldn't dare. What's even more remarkable is that this one gamble opened the door for him to be taken seriously in comedy, eventually leading to other hits like Kindergarten Cop and Junior. But Twins was the one that changed the game. It wasn't just about money, it was about brand evolution. Arnold went from being the muscled action hero to someone with range, someone who could make people laugh without firing a single bullet, and the public loved it. The film's success wasn't a fluke. Audiences connected with the oddball premise, the unexpected charm, and the undeniable chemistry between Arnold and DeVito. Even the critics, who were usually cold to Arnold's performances, found it hard to resist, and from there the movie just kept printing money. TV syndication, home video sales, international licensing, it all added up. This one film, which many initially saw as a career risk, turned out to be Arnold's smartest financial move, and the best part? He wasn't even playing a typical version of himself. He wasn't the tough guy, the killer, or the protector. He was goofy, naive, sweet, and it worked. The irony, of course, is that most fans still think of Terminator when they think of Arnold's biggest success, but behind the scenes it was Twins that was quietly stacking his bank account year after year. The business lesson here is almost more compelling than the movie itself. Arnold understood that sometimes betting on yourself pays more than any paycheck, and instead of following the expected path, he rewrote the rules for action stars. In the end, the legacy of Twins isn't just that it was funny or successful, it's that it made more money for its star than any shootout or explosion ever did. And when Arnold tells the story now, there's a glint in his eye because he knows he outplayed the system in a way few have. And the story doesn't end there. Arnold, Ivan Reitman, and Danny DeVito were so happy with how things turned out financially and creatively that they planned to make a sequel called Triplets, this time adding Eddie Murphy into the mix. For years, it was a running joke in Hollywood. When is Triplets finally happening? The sequel was stuck in development limbo for decades, delayed by scheduling conflicts, studio changes, and sadly, the passing of director Ivan Reitman in 2022. Still, Arnold has repeatedly said he wants it to happen, if only to relive the magic that changed everything for him in the late 80s. But stepping back, what makes this entire story so fascinating isn't just the surprising financial win, it's what it says about Arnold's mindset. While many action stars of the 80s and 90s stuck to type, often struggling to remain relevant in later years, Arnold kept evolving. He moved from bodybuilder to movie star, from comedy to politics and back again. Even when critics doubted him or audiences questioned his choices, he took risks based on instinct, and more often than not, they paid off. The success of Twins gave him the freedom to pick and choose roles without the pressure of always chasing the next big paycheck. He could afford to be selective, he could say no, and that freedom is something few stars ever earn. It's part of what gave him staying power. He wasn't just another action figure on screen, he was a savvy businessman behind the scenes. That deal on Twins is now studied in entertainment law and business circles. It's used as an example of how smart back-end deals can outperform even the biggest front-end contracts. Other actors have tried similar strategies, but few have pulled it off as cleanly as Arnold did. In later interviews, Arnold has reflected on the moment he signed that contract and how everyone thought he was crazy for giving up a standard salary, but he saw something others didn't. He understood the value of ownership and long-term profits, even if it meant a temporary sacrifice. In a way, Twins wasn't just a movie, it was a masterclass in long-term vision, and looking at Arnold today, it's clear he has no regrets. He still calls it one of the best decisions of his entire career, both artistically and financially. And here's the kicker, most fans still don't know any of this. They still assume Terminator 2 or True Lies or even Predator were the high earners, but behind the curtain, it was Twins all along. A simple, heartfelt, low-budget comedy about two unlikely brothers that changed the course of his career. It proved that Arnold wasn't just a muscle-bound action hero, he was a brand, a businessman, and someone who knew how to play the Hollywood game better than anyone gave him credit for. That's the real story, not the explosions or catchphrases, but the quiet genius of a guy who bet on himself when it mattered most, and won. And what's even wilder, despite all the massive hits that followed, Terminator 2, Total Recall, True Lies, Eraser, and dozens more, none of them ever came close to the percentage return Arnold got from Twins. The movie was shot for around $15 million and made over $216 million globally. No explosions, no futuristic cyborgs, no heavy artillery, just Arnold, DeVito, and a ridiculous but heartfelt plot. And yet, that's the film that put the most money in his pocket. That's the project that gave him the financial leverage to say no to bad scripts, to walk away from deals that didn't make sense, and to start playing chess while everyone else in Hollywood was still playing checkers. And let's be real, this kind of deal is nearly impossible today. Studios rarely offer that level of back-end unless you're producing the film yourself. The streaming age has changed the game, but back then, Arnold's move was a gamble that not only paid off, it redefined what was possible for action stars. He went from being the guy who crushed skulls on screen to the guy crushing spreadsheets in the boardroom. And every time someone brings up the best financial move in his career, he doesn't hesitate. He just smiles and says, Twins. Now, whether you loved Arnold in Commando or Kindergarten Cop, or whether you're just hearing this side of the story for the first time, this is the kind of behind-the-scenes truth that shows just how sharp and strategic some of Hollywood's biggest names really are, because at the end of the day, Arnold didn't just break barriers in bodybuilding, action movies, or politics. He broke the Hollywood business model and won. If you found this deep dive into Arnold's career fascinating, make sure to like this video, subscribe for insider Hollywood stories, and drop a comment below. What do you think about Arnold's smartest movie move?